Hello and welcome to another edition of The New Crossroads, a podcast where we, on a regular basis, examine the emerging Internet of Things sector and the dramatic impact that it is having, IoT, disrupting and also transforming business, the economy, and workforce. My name is Gary Dick. I am host of Inside Indiana Business. Pleased, as always, to be joined by my co-host, Judy Oakenfuss. Judy is a managing partner at the firm of Ice Miller, also the firm's chair of the IoT industry group. And our guest, another great group this time, our great guest this time around, our guest is Lou Lenzi. Lou is a former senior executive at a number of high-profile companies, IBM, Thomson RCA, GE. He's currently a professor in the Indiana University School of Informatics and Computing. And Lou, it's great to have you here.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, we want to talk about IoT, the impact on so many things that you deal with and have dealt with for a long time. Talk about, first of all, to tee things up, your background, because you've got great background in a number of high-profile industries. Talk a little bit about that.
So I have a background in industrial design, and what that is really about is training in creative problem solving. You know, how do you look at a problem? How do you look at the problem differently? How do you frame the problem? How do you use research to understand the problem and then address it in a new and innovative way? You look at the profession of industrial design, it really was very much a product-focused profession early on. You go back to Raymond Loewy, you know, the Coca-Cola bottle and the mass-produced objects that were really designed to appeal to the eye. Fast forward to the information age. Now you're thinking about design as a vehicle to communicate a business and its values through its visual communications, its product design, its graphics, its advertising and materials. You think about IBM and UPS. You kind of fast forward then into the digital age, and now we're talking about the design of the experience, right? You know, how do you use that iPod? How do you use that iPhone? How does that kind of come together to create an engaging experience between the company, its product, and the consumer? So industrial design has really evolved over time from form givers now to creative problem solvers in the area of user experience, and now as we fast forward into the connected world, how does that connected world relate to us as users?
And in your current role, we're going to talk more about this a bit later on the workforce and the talent pipeline and those types of things. But you're at the IU School of Informatics and Computing, and really immersed in this topic and engaging with those future workers in those
Absolutely,
in those fields.
absolutely. When you think about what's going on in the workforce and the world of connectivity, we really need to be preparing that workforce to understand the larger picture, the overall system that we're creating when we talk about an IoT ecosystem, and then how do you translate that system into a set of technologies and solutions for your customer that are meaningful. You know, we're at a point now where technology can do just about anything, but you yet need to figure out how to make it do the right things for that individual customer.
So one of the concepts that I have heard a lot about is user-centered design or human-centered design. I'm hoping, having a professor here today, you can help me understand what those concepts mean.
Sure. So when you think about user-centered design and human-centered design, it's really wrapped around this understanding of that underlying need and that design space you're working in. So for example, if you're working in ag tech and precision ag, you really need to understand what is the farmer, what are they trying to accomplish, what are their goals and objectives. And you really understand that by doing design research, going out into the field literally, doing observational research, oftentimes walking in the boots of that particular user so that you understand what they're doing, what their needs are, and then how do you translate those needs into insights that will then translate into a design solution. So that in a nutshell, we talk about user-centered design and human-centered design, that's what we're talking about.
So you're explaining all these new types of design processes. How does that affect the manufacturer?
You know, when you think about IoT, I believe it's going to be just as disruptive as, go back to the days of the digitization of media. Look what digitization did to the music industry, the publishing industry, video. We're now streaming all kinds of content where we, you know, from a world of 3 channels. That same disruption is going to take place in manufacturing, in ag tech, in logistics, through IoT. So it really is a transformative step we're undertaking. So how do you get your arms around that? And that's where I believe human-centered design, user-centered design can help the manufacturer navigate that space. What's eventually going to happen is, I like to say is, if you're in the hardware business today, you're going to be in the service business tomorrow. It's going to be that transformative in terms of your fundamental business model.
Yeah, you led the design team at GE Appliances, I think,
yes.
In Louisville. I think that may be an example of,
exactly.
This transformation we're seeing in that particular industry, but really across all.
Right, and you know that's a case in point. You know, people they learn that there's now a Wi-Fi radio in my refrigerator. And they, well, why do I need that, right? I can open the door and get that glass of water. Really, that connectivity and the user benefit isn't in that front-end relationship, it's the back-end service. I can now download software updates to that refrigerator. I can do predictive maintenance to that refrigerator. So instead of me calling up Judy at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll be out to your house in the next 3 to 5 hours. No, I'm going to be out to your house at 3 o'clock with the right part, and I can repair that on the spot. So when we think about IoT, you need to think about that transformative function. So yes, so when you're shopping at a Lowe's or a Home Depot for that GE refrigerator, that Wi-Fi may not be the enticement for you to buy the product, but it will create a overall service experience that will be much more desirable than an unconnected product.
And the design, I think, as I was reading some of the background too, as you look at the design, the high-tech design of a refrigerator in the context of really being part of a smart home.
Yes,
a larger,
exactly.
larger picture. Yeah.
You think about that, right now you have a Nest thermostat, you have a Nest carbon monoxide detector. Now you have a wall oven that talks to those devices. Wall oven is a gas wall oven. The carbon monoxide level goes up, it's detected, it automatically turns off the wall oven as a potential source. It'll then turn off the water heater in the basement because it's a potential source of carbon monoxide, because that's a gas unit as well. So you begin to see these systems talking to one another in a way that's completely hands-off, but it's benefiting the end user.
So I think about this as you're talking about a connected refrigerator, and I think about all the traditional design and all the skills that people traditionally had. You had a mechanical engineer or something, and now it sounds like you're starting to talk about a whole new skill set. As we've been doing these podcasts and talking to a lot of industry leaders, we've started to try and understand what people need to know. And I'd be interested in the class you're teaching.
Yeah,
actually.
so it really is, we're transitioning a world of a collaborative workforce. You talked about developing a product. Historically, it's been round up the mechanical engineers, the manufacturing engineers, get somebody from sourcing and have at it. Now you're talking about software engineers, user interface designers, user experience designers. It's a whole new world, but it's a collaborative world. You haven't replaced those other disciplines, but you've now expanded the team to include these new disciplines. So when we talk about a team that we're kind of minting in the educational arena, it really is a team that can understand these various aspects and glue these components together in a way that's creative. I teach a graduate level course. A lot of the undergraduates are IT background, computer science background, design background. And what they're looking for is that extra layer of understanding so that they can work in this team setting and define and design these connected products and services in a unique and innovative way.
And I think IU was very visionary in creating the School of Informatics 20 years ago or so.
Absolutely.
Because now, fast forward to today, and exactly what
It was
you're
the first in the country.
Yeah, what you're talking about here. Talk about the talent pipeline, because companies, whether it's IoT really or whatever the issue, everybody's in that battle, that war for talent.
Right.
How do you assess the talent pipeline specifically in the IoT space?
It's going to come from a number of areas, and because this world is so new, if you can pivot from systems thinking to design thinking, you can think about the abstract and translating the abstract into the physical, prototyping. I mean, it is a very, very different world. So I would suggest that we're no longer looking at these very narrow specialties or specialists, but now we're looking at generalists. I once said a good designer is part humanist, part artist, and part capitalist, right? Because you want those skills. You want to be able to say, okay, let's look at it from a behavioral consumer standpoint. Let's look at the problem from one of creating delight and usability, and then let's look, how do we make money? Right, and again, even that model is changing. We're going from that hardware sale, one time ring the cash register, to a services economy, a subscription economy. So that is even changing. So you can't pigeonhole yourself into any one particular skill set, or you'll get run over.
So if I'm a traditional manufacturer, knowing I want to move into IoT, but I'm not going to find someone with an IoT degree.
Right.
There isn't an Internet of Things degree. What skill sets am I really looking for?
There's a school up the street. The skill set you're looking for really is somebody that can, again, think creatively, think critically, has a background in data analytics. We call it data science, but there's a couple of components to that. It's how do you tag that data, organize the data in a meaningful fashion, visualize the data, and then make decisions off of that data. So data science is very important. And then again, you need to be able to think in at a systems level. those are skills that right now exist in the School of Informatics and other schools of informatics, but they also exist in schools of business now. You're starting to see schools of business expand in these areas. Engineering, even art and design schools are picking up these skills of data analytics, data science, systems thinking.
Is business and industry, are they more actively taking a role in communicating with academia in terms of what they need, from a talent standpoint?
To be honest with you, I think we need to do a better job approaching industry because from my experience in the 2 years I've been on campus, every time I've reached out to a company to say, hey, I'm building out this class and we're looking for projects and sponsors, no problem.
Right.
I mean, industry really wants to work with us because they see this gap as well, and they want to be able to influence what our students are doing. They want to see over the wall and see how we're kind of envisioning a problem statement. So I think it's incumbent upon academia to kind of tear down the wall and say, look, we're going to continue to do basic research. We're going to continue to create new knowledge. That's what we're in the business of doing. But we also need to become more applied folks, right? How do we take that knowledge and apply it into a business setting? Every time I've spoken to a company, we've done projects with Amazon, IBM. We've done projects with some smaller local firms. Everybody's, yes, right away. There's no hesitation. Let's work together. Let's figure this out.
Good.
Are there other steps that we can take to prepare the workforce for the connected world?
It starts at the high school level, we firmly believe.
In what way?
Thinking skills, how you take apart a problem, how do you look at the data, understand what is the data telling you about that particular problem. We just launched 3 years ago a program called IDEW, and it's an informatics diversity enhanced workforce program. It's at the high school level. And right now we have programs going with Arsenal Tech, with Providence Cristo Rey, and with Pike.
So are they solving problems?
Yes, we give them real problems, real design, IoT design challenges.
So I'm curious, what are the high schoolers doing?
Well, first of all, we assign an instructor, and also we bring our own staff. Jim List and his team come to the school, and we work on projects together. And the students at the end of this semester, in fact, we're reviewing them today. Here's the results of my project, and they pitch out like they're PowerPoints and everything. They're pitching out to you as a business owner. This is my way of solving that particular problem. So it really begins introducing those critical thinking skills at the high school level that will then lead to this more connected workforce, if you will.
And another program I know we talked off camera, LIFT.
LIFT.
Yeah.
That is a program that is geared towards the undergraduates that are interested in IT, that may be in an economically challenged kind of background, that are really interested in getting into informatics. We have 20 scholarships every year that go to these students in the School of Informatics, and Ivy Tech has another 20 scholarships for associate's degree in IT. So again, it's really about capturing those students that have that desire to learn and want to participate in this IoT workforce, this connected products and services workforce at an early age, and we can bring them into the workforce with those kind of skills.
And I know IU was a founding partner at the Indiana IoT Lab in Fishers, which really exciting development in that IoT space in Indiana over the course of the last year or so. That also kind of connects you with workforce and those issues.
When you think about those types of spaces, whether it be the IoT Lab or 16 Tech or Union 525, what it really comes down to is new sources of innovation for companies large and small. Well, what better environment to insert an educational institution like IU into that environment? These companies are struggling with new ideas, challenges. They're working in a unique way. They're co-locating workers. They're bouncing ideas off of other companies in that environment. I think Bill Steffen and Tony Armstrong, were brilliant in putting us into that environment so that our students can work alongside these companies as they deal with these challenges, and the companies get to take a look at our students as potential candidates for recruiting. Yeah. So it's a beautiful environment.
That's great. And are you seeing a lot of interest from the students in the IoT?
Oh yes,
classes?
We did a project. We did an independent study project this past summer where this particular graduate student wanted to focus on physical therapy following a knee or a hip replacement, and how could you automate that process and take the burden off of the caregiver and really make for a more effective outcome through connected products. And we worked out of the IoT Lab, and it was amazing. You walk down the hall, hey, Avinash, what are you working on? Well, I'm doing this. Well, have you tried this? Have you looked at that? Here's a new component. Here's a new technology you ought to think about. That kind of commingling of ideas, that's going to drive innovation forward. That's going to drive Central Indiana's businesses forward.
So what about the current workforce? The people who are hearing the IoT, they didn't study it, but they don't want to be left behind. What are the opportunities for a current workforce to get the training?
Sure. One of the things that I was really impressed with when I got into academia was the number of certificate programs that are now available. These are 1 to 15 credit hour specializations that say somebody that's working, full-time, has a family, has an obligation, but wants to sharpen their skills and become more effective in the IoT world. We have a course, a 15 credit hour certificate in human-computer interaction. How do you design that user experience? How do you design the user? 15 credit hours. I mean, we're talking about doing something that online, evening, that will allow that member of the current workforce to be able to sharpen their skills and grow. There's 3 credit hour certificates, 1.5 credit hour certificates. So I think it's academia coming towards the understanding that the workforce has an interest in these skills, but may not necessarily have the time and the resources to be on campus.
Well, what do you think of the hackathons? Because the IoT Lab had a hackathon last year, and I know there were a lot of people from industry that just came out to participate. Is that a good way to gain skills?
Absolutely, absolutely. I will speak again from my students' perspective. I had 9 students attend the AT&T hackathon. It was just focused on first responders, if you remember.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to explain what it is for the audience.
Oh, what the
Yeah.
hackathon? This is
Right.
this is a 24-hour blitz on a very focused problem statement. In this case, the 24-hour blitz was focused on how can you improve the work, the lives of the first responder community. And we had one group of students that really became fascinated by the fire community, the firefighters. Following the hackathon, they went so far as to begin to interface with IFD and the Carmel Fire Department to further understand their needs. They entered a design challenge that was around augmented reality in the fire engine. They won a $5,000 award from that, and now they're working further to develop that solution that hopefully you may see in a fire engine down the road. That all came from the hackathon. And that hackathon, again, to your point, Judy, was not just students, but it was students, professionals mingling together. It was engineers, software developers, anthropologists, I mean, you name it. Anybody has an interest could dive into that world.
Yeah. Are you sensing with these hackathons, and there are a number of them that have popped up around the state over the last couple of years, but there's more and more momentum around innovation, around IoT in particular, and in getting young people engaged, high school, even before high school level.
It's amazing when you go through the IDO presentations, these high school level students, and you see their projects, and you just watch them, and they're thinking about, I could start a business. I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
They go, with the right amount of money, a few $100, a few $1,000, I can
Right.
start to. It's just a natural extension. Once you start thinking creatively about how to solve that particular business problem. In my class, in my graduate level IoT class, they're project based, 3 5-week projects per semester. And about halfway through each project, I bring in outside professionals to critique the students. I bring in people from High Alpha, Rolls-Royce, Cummins, Moser Consulting, Catalyst. And the interaction the students have with the professionals as the students are kind of noodling on this new business opportunity is fantastic. The students love the feedback. The companies leave, they're excited. The 2 gentlemen from Rolls-Royce, Alan Bard and Corey Nation, are like, we go back to the office energized. Now, they're not there to say, wait, we have a new design for a reverse thruster on a gas turbine, but they're seeing that energy and they're seeing that thought process, and they can take that back to their offices.
How do you see, Lou, as we kind of wind down here, but the opportunity for Indiana? There seems to be so much momentum around IoT, some of the things we've been talking about here, but in these different areas where there are real assets in Indiana, digital agriculture,
Right.
among them that you mentioned earlier, manufacturing, you can go on down the list. How do you think Indiana is positioned right now to take advantage and to benefit and to leverage the whole IoT space?
I really believe that we have a leading role right now. You mentioned ag tech. You go up to Beck's Hybrid Seeds up in Atlanta. I mean, those guys are doing some phenomenal things. Family-run business in Atlanta, Indiana. You look what's going on at Wabash National. You look what's going on at Rolls-Royce and Cummins. Some of these, but the world does not sit still.
Right.
So yeah, while we may have the lead, while we may be on the forefront, it's if we don't move quickly with the right kind of financing, the right kind of focus, and the right kind of risk taking, we'll get lost in the shuffle. So it's important that we continue to move fast. We continue to rely on assets like the IoT lab. We continue to rely on assets like the next level training. What's going on with AgriNovus and TechPoint, and Crossroads. We got to keep pushing.
Give you the final question.
Okay,
Judy.
well, with everything going on that we've just talked about, what are the next steps? What do we need to take to stay in the forefront?
We need. I really believe we need to continue to focus on that marriage of academia and industry, and again, continue to focus academia on research and the creation of new knowledge, but really start to move that ball towards industry, and the same thing, have industry move closer to academia, and really work on things collaboratively. I mean, we're seeing it right now in our school and at the high school, the undergraduate and graduate level. We just got to continue to push that relationship.
Lou Lenzi, it's been a real treat speaking to you and listening to you, and Indiana University and the state of Indiana are very fortunate to have your expertise now teaching that next generation of IoT
Thanks,
workers.
Gary.
So
Thanks,
thanks
Judy.
very much. Judy, as always, thank you for being here and asking those great questions and joining us for another edition of the new Crossroads. Join us on the next edition. My name is Gary Dick. I'm the host of Inside Indiana Business, and always enjoy coming to you on this podcast where we examine IoT and the tremendous impact it is having in Indiana and far beyond. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.